I'm gonna get. Hey, good morning. How's everybody doing out there? I hope everybody's doing good. Welcome back to the JMFG podcast. I want to say thank you to everybody that's been supporting the show. Like I said, it's our show. We're doing a great job with it. Thanks everybody for all the feedback that we're getting. Thanks for all the supporters. Can't thank you guys enough. Can't thank Mike Elliott for the last episode. That episode was great. Me and Mike been texting a lot back and forth, talking to each other, just to make sure, we're capturing, doing everything we possibly can to help people. So, having said that, we're on to the next week. We're moving on. My next guest is a pretty good friend of mine. He's a decent friend of mine, except for, he's an Alabama fan. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. I'm from Georgia. He's from Alabama. So it's always that animosity, and it's always who's better than who, which we already know Georgia's better, but he don't want to say that. But my next guest, he's my second military guest, which I totally respect. He's medically retired from the military. But with no further ado, I'll let my boy Thomas introduce himself. Thomas?
How you doing, John? I appreciate you having me on your show, man. I just want to start off saying my name's Thomas Robinson. I'm from Alabama. Ooh. And I'm gonna have to go ahead and say Roll Tide. And with you saying that, I realized that times have changed, and you guys are finally start poking your head up. And I'll let you have it. But it's not true. See, you laughing at because it's not true.
Thomas, hey, I hate to say it, Alabama, they were good. I ain't gonna take them from them. They were good. But what them Bulldogs doing right now is about to be ugly, bro. For the next 3 to 4 years, bro, y'all might as well just.
So for the next 3 or 4 years.
I said at least 3 to 4 years.
All right.
At least. Yeah. And I'm talking about national championships. I ain't talking about 3 to 4 years being in the top 3. I mean national championships.
Okay.
Done.
Yeah. It's just like the first year y'all beat us, and we got all the people hurt, and the thing happened in the SC championship. Yeah. You know what? I can live in the past.
You know what I'm hearing? What am I hearing?
I'm just saying. I live in the past.
Excuses.
I'm just saying. There ain't no excuses. Them just facts. You know what I mean? You got to say what you got to say. Your boys ain't helping you out right now. But anyway.
It's all good. It's all good. So, hey, the reason why I got Thomas on today, Thomas is a real true friend of mine over, probably about a decade now.
Yeah.
And so... You grew up in Alabama. We're going to start off right. What part of Alabama you grew up in?
I would say Chilton County. It's so small that most people don't know where it's from. I actually had a job this summer working as a golf intern, and I met a guy who knew exactly where I was from. So I grew up in Clanton, Verbena, Marbury area. It's about 30 minutes north of Montgomery and 45 minutes south of Birmingham, directly in the center. Grew up in a trailer on a dirt road. With a BB gun and a .22.
Yep, and the boy still can't shoot, and he definitely can't golf.
First thing is I can shoot, and golf is one thing that I can do.
So, hey, when me and Thomas met, we started talking about hunting, right?
Yeah.
And me and Thomas used to talk, and Thomas told one day, man, I can't hunt in that heat, man. Them mosquitoes will tote you out that stand.
Yeah, they will. That's what I'm saying. You hunting? I've been hunting some times, man, where it's just like, I don't even know why I'm out here.
And, I'm with you.
I think that my two hobbies are hunting and golf. And those are probably the two things that are like the most evil to you. Because I've been hunting before and it's 10 degrees outside and you're freezing, your feet are cold and your toes are cold. And you just wonder to yourself, why am I sitting out here? And that next 5 minutes, some could walk out. So you just continue to sit there. You continue to freeze. So,
and that's it. And that's why we do it. You know, it's that I tell everybody, you go a whole year for that 10 to 20 seconds to draw that bow, shoot that arrow, and then go get your ammo. And then it's over.
And then it's over.
And it's done. You know? And we do that all year round just to get that shot. And so Thomas, having said that, I grew up on a trail on a dirt road. Hey, same as me, but I'm from Georgia, better state, of course. But what I would say is that, like Thomas grew up just like I did.
You can't even say the words.
Right? I know, right? I know, because I'm thinking about Georgia and Alabama right now. All I want to do now is see some college football. So, growing up on that dirt road in Alabama, you grew up with both parents, right?
Yes, absolutely.
How do you think, as a young black male, that made a difference in your life having both parents?
I would say, I mean, it was great. My both of my parents were very strict. They were very, very strict, but they raised me right. Both of them being there with me. I wouldn't call myself. I would call myself a Renaissance man, or I think that's the right word. What do they say? You're I don't know how it goes, but you're good at everything, but a master of nothing.
Yeah, jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. So my dad taught me a lot, that I try to teach my son. A lot about being a man, a lot about just doing those little things that it takes to be a man, about taking care of the family. And my mom taught me that if I get a woman like her, she's not to be messed with.
Right. I agree.
So yeah, I would say growing up in Alabama as a young black man, it was both parents was very, very, very good. And I grew up I grew up in a small thing. It was like me, and then in the middle was my grandmother, and then I would say 400 yards away was my uncle. And all of those families were together. My aunt and uncle was together. He raised his son. My dad raised me, and he also raised me, and my dad raised him. So it was kind of like, they say in the city, it takes a village. Takes a village. It was kind of like that. It kind of took a village. I was raised up to do all of this and work and picking watermelons and yeah.
And so for me, it was the same way, really. We lived on Glenville Road, so everybody was kin to everybody, and it took a village. And I think I think we need to go back to that in the States, as far, not states, but just go back to that in the times we're in now. Get these phones out of kids' hands, get rid of all this, crap they don't need to be looking at. Get them outside, let them fish, let them hunt, let them do stuff, let them have fun.
Absolutely.
Let them be boys, let them be girls, let them get dirty. So growing up in South Alabama, having a family there, having both parents, when did you join the military? So,
with that being said about my dad, I turned 18 and I was ready to get out of the house. Like I said, he was strict. There's stories of, I'll give you a story. I said my uncle lived 400 yards away. I remember times that I would go to my uncle's house and I'm sitting watching TV and they get a call like, hey, come turn the light off. And I'm like, wait. You want me to walk all the way down there to turn the light off because you don't want to waste power?
I bet you wouldn't turn the light off.
Yep, I went right down there and turned that light off. I was mad, but I shuffled right on down the hill and turned the light off. So, I mean, I wouldn't give up my childhood for anything. The more I get older, or the older I get, the more I realize there was a method to their madness.
The more you appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I wouldn't change the way I was raised for anything.
Yeah.
Especially being an Alabama fan, I wouldn't change that. I know in your circumstances, there's probably a lot of things about your childhood that you were told that wasn't true, but I mean, it is what it is. But anyway, back to the question you asked. I went to, I decided to, once I graduated high school, I was ready to get out of the house. So I went to college. I did a semester and a half at college, and it was just like, I was young, I was homesick. I grew up in I used to throw football and catch it myself. I was, a country kid. I remember I called a recruiter. I was like, hey, man, I need a job. Because that's what my cousin who was in the military or was in the military told me. He's like, oh, I called a recruiter and wanted a job. So the same thing. I called a recruiter. I'm like, hey, I need a job. I went and did all the tests and stuff. And I did pretty well. And he's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I want to be outside. He's like, infantry? I'm like, absolutely.
Didn't know what it was.
No clue what it was, but I was outside. You know what I mean? So that's one thing I would say. And with my time in the military, I mean, there was hard times and there was good times, but I wouldn't. I know a lot of people at certain points in their career complain about it. I got nothing.
Same here.
Yeah, had a lot of people in my career that did a lot of things for me, and I really appreciate it.
That's good. That's
Absolutely.
good. So where were y'all stationed at? Were you all here?
No, so I actually had been I've only been 2 places. That's here and in Benning. So I spent my first 6 years at 82nd Lurse, which was fun. I would say that was the highlight of my career.
Right.
I got picked up on drill sergeant orders when I was in E5. So I went down to drill sergeant school, did drill sergeant for 3 years. After that, I went to I stayed at 115 infantry, deployed with those guys. I did 2 deployments while I was in Lurse, but I deployed with those guys, came back, and then I got sent back up here to 18 Airborne Corps, which I thought I was going to 82nd, but lo and behold, it was actually 18 Airborne Corps. So, spent some time there. Actually spent some time working with you guys, and now I'm sitting here talking to you.
So now, throughout your years in the military, how many years did you do total?
21.
So you did 21 years total in the military, and I know you were medically retired. Let's talk about how or why you were medically retired.
So I think it was back in 2000. I really honestly can't remember the date, but back in the early 2000s, I was diagnosed with a myxoid sarcoma, and so with that, I had it in my right ankle. And and this is one of those things that I'll say about the military that I was very appreciative of. So I remember, so I was working in 18 Airborne Corps. I was a Rear D NCOIC or Rear D platoon sergeant, and we're out doing PT. And every time I would run, my feet would get, or my right foot would get numb, and I couldn't move my toes. So I went to sick call, and I was like, hey, something's going on. And I went after PT so that obviously that they wouldn't look at me like, hey man, you're trying to get a PT.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an infantry staff sergeant. I'm not trying to get a PT.
Right.
It's
just sickle cell. You good?
Yeah, you know what I mean. A little sickle cell here and there. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't never hurt nobody. So I went to the sick call. Had to actually go to sick call 3 times. So I went on the 3rd time, and it was Sergeant Morales. Staff Sergeant Morales looked at it. He's like, I think you might have compartment syndrome. We went back and forth trying to figure out what was going on, and then the actual PA came back, and I finally saw a slight bulge. So he's like, hey, I'll send you in for an MRI. So I went in, got an MRI, and you could see it plain as day. It was a tumor. And within 2 weeks of that MRI coming back, I was already at UNC getting treatment.
Okay.
And
let's go back to, how do you pronounce that?
myxoid sarcoma.
I ain't even trying to pronounce
I just call it sarcoma or soft tissue sarcoma.
We're just going to say MS. So tell everybody that's a form of cancer.
Yes. So that is a form of, that's a form of cancer that forms, a type of cancer that forms in the fatty cell. So a lot of people get it in their limbs and stuff like that. So it's not a very, it's hard to put it. It's not a very
like common cancer.
No, it's very rare. It is very, very, very rare, especially in young adults. But they don't have a lot of information on it. Like I even talked to my doctor. If he said if you had testicular cancer or prostate cancer, I could tell you everything that's going on. But
I even tried to Google it. You only found it's the same thing.
It's not very much, and there's a lot of I don't knows that's involved in it.
So is that hereditary? Like, is that?
No, so it's not hereditary. It is from like cells replicating, and it just had a bad cell. I just had one bad cell somewhere in my ankle or somewhere in my body that ended up in my ankle, and that's where it started forming.
So but your father passed away from cancer also.
No, so my father ended up having throat cancer, and I think that was from him smoking. But the craziest part is he quit smoking like 5 years before he ended up having throat cancer. Yep, 5 years. He actually passed away he had COVID.
Okay.
Yeah, from having cancer, and he had diabetes and all that at a young age. He ended up, once he got COVID, it was just it was too much. Too much for his body.
That makes sense.
But as far as me though, once I got diagnosed with it, I had radiation to that area, and then I had surgery. Then after that happened, I went back to my unit. I went to SRU, and which is great. I went to SRU, and I rehabilitated myself back to be able to go back to the military.
Okay, so now my next question is, the day you found out you had cancer, because, for me, like I know there's testicular, I know you got lung, you got throat, you got different types of cancer, but this is a rare cancer. And when you first heard that this is what you got, what went through your head?
I would say so. So I've had it twice. So I guess we'll get to that part.
Yep.
I would say the actual day that I found out was a very, very stressful day. Something that happened in the military, and I was already stressed out from that. And then my doctor called me, and I could hear it in his voice. His voice kind of cracked. And when he answered the phone, I was like, "Hello." He's like, "Hey, how you doing? Is this Thomas?" I'm like, "Yeah." And his voice cracked. I'm like, "It's cancer, isn't it?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "But I've dealt with it before. We're gonna do radiation, we're gonna do surgery, and you're gonna be good to go." And after that, he told me that I honestly would say the first time I never once ever crossed my mind anything. Like it was just, okay, the doctor, because I'm more of a, like, I don't know much about it, so I'm not going to try to overanalyze it and try to, if the doctor says it, that's what it is, that's what it is. I mean, he went to.
So right now I'm gonna pause you for a minute. I want you to pretend I'm a doctor, right?
Okay.
So if I'm a doctor and I tell you something, you're just gonna be like, okay, he's a doctor, you know what he's talking about, right?
Yes.
Georgia Bulldogs.
Okay.
Gonna whoop Alabama's, you know what? So as a doctor, and you listen to me, I just want you to say, yeah, doc, you right. I totally agree with what you say right now.
So, Dr. Johnny, I understand you've been doing this for 2 years, and Alabama's been on top for a long time. I understand what you're saying, and I disagree with it wholeheartedly. There are doctors that are wrong, and I'm looking at one right now. Because 2 years ago, Doc, you could have said the same thing. You'd have been like, I don't know. And after that SEC championship, you're like, I don't know too. So, I kind of take, you got me. You called me out with that,
But no, on a serious note, though.
No, I mean, to me, that is serious.
Yeah, I got you.
That's a serious note. I mean,
but no, like, back to your foot. But once you found that out, and the doctor told you that, like, you had that positive reinforcement. All right.
Yeah, I had at that moment in my life, it wasn't something that affected me. To be honest with you, and I think the reassurance that the doctor gave me helped me out at that moment. And there was a lot of other stuff going on in my life, so that made that. I keep saying that occasion because obviously I'm sitting here because it happened again. Right. But that occasion wasn't that, I guess, traumatizing. It really isn't something that I fixated on.
Right. Okay. So once you got that diagnosis, what happened after all that? You just go to UNC and.
Yep. So I went to UNC. I did radiation. I think I did 25 treatments of radiation. I waited a while, went in, had surgery. After surgery, I went back. I did 5 more treatments of radiation, and that was it. So
now the radiation. That I'm assuming that was used just to, like, get rid of the cancer, burn the cancer out.
So basically it sends microwaves through it and it kills cancer cells.
Okay, and then what was the surgery for?
The surgery was basically what they're doing is they're shrinking it they shrink the tumor in order for them to get margins, which means that's less tumor. The smaller it is, the better, which means that's less muscle they have to take out. So they shrink it, they cut it out, and then they cut out the muscle that it was touching, and then they do radiation again to make sure they kill any other cells that may have been left over.
Okay, now, and how did that affect your foot?
So for a while I was, like I said, I had to go to physical therapy. I had to get myself back in shape. But all in all, the only time it ever bothered me, I would say for the years afterwards, like walking in sand, because it was hard for me to press down, and I can only move my big toe up. I can't bend it because they had to cut a tendon. Gotcha. But besides that, I really have no other quarrels with.
That's awesome.
Anything with my foot. That's
a good deal. And so from the time of diagnosis to radiation to your surgeries, how long were you out or down for?
I was probably out for I would say a year of everything going on. I was out for a year.
And what did you do? This for like the viewers or whatever, or my listeners that are listening. For guys that are down for a year, even if it's not cancer, I'm just saying if guys are down for, torn pec muscle or a broken leg or whatever. What did you do to bite the time? Like, what did you do to?
So I went to SRU, and actually I met you from being at SRU.
That's right.
And we went out. It was Mike Lacey, and I met that whole big group of guys. And I played golf. I'd played golf a few times before, but I really got big into playing golf when that happened. And that's where I met Brad, old Puzzle Duck.
Yep.
I met Brad in a seminar. Seminar. I think that's what he calls it. And that's how that's how I bided my time. And there was a big way that I kind of rehabilitated myself. I used golf to do it. I played a lot of golf. I did a lot of walking, and that strengthened up my muscles.
Yeah. So I gotta praise Thomas right now, because I remember the first time I played with Thomas, I couldn't believe how good he was in golf. But I tore him up though, because he's got a good handicap. I don't.
So you tore me up just like Georgia, right?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
just like Georgia. Okay. So Thomas, I got to give him praise. Now we just called one of our buddy Gene's a second ago, because Gene used to golf with us all the time, Julio and Greg and all these guys. But I will say in what Thomas just said, for guys out there that are dealing with stuff, hey man, find a hobby.
Yeah.
Find something you can do, especially military, law enforcement, first responders, guys that are usually type A type guys that, we're used to go. Now all of a sudden that's taken away from you.
Yep, absolutely.
And you can't do it. And most guys end up going to booze, going to drugs, doing things that they probably shouldn't do that hurts their body more than anything. So what I would tell guys is, find good friends, find a good hobby, and just start doing it.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
Thomas said, he started playing golf, and right now Thomas's handicap is like what? What's your handicap right now?
0.9.
So he's got a 0.9 handicap. I'm like 0, but we ain't gonna talk about that.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about it, man.
Nah, it ain't a 0
You sure
handicap. I'm in like a 20
We
handicap.
go down that road, and that's being generous.
Oh, yeah, I know, right? And so for Thomas to find that, after being told, hey, you're out for a year, find a new hobby, find something to do. And then he fell in love with it, and now he's in school for it. And, now we'll go into that. What are you doing now currently? Now
So right now I'm actually, I go to Methodist, the PGM program. I am a sophomore and taking a business administration. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good stuff, man. And so I know you guys heard Thomas say a few times about that was the first time.
Yeah.
So now let's go into the second time.
Yeah, second time's a little bit different. So when I said I work with you guys, so I met a couple guys who said that because I was having to go back into the military, but I was still on not really a physical profile, but the profile is I can't be in an austere environment,
right.
Which means every 3 months I had to go get checked to make sure it didn't come back. So I really couldn't deploy. So what was I going to do? Where's I going to go and not be judged being an infantry guy? I couldn't really go to an infantry battalion in 82nd like, hey, Sergeant Major, how you doing? My name's Sergeant First Class Robinson. I'm here. I'm ready to work, but I can't deploy.
Right. That's not good.
What am I going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I actually ended up working for SWCC. I worked at SWCC for 5 years. Great group of guys. I would say the second highlight of my career, besides Lurks, would be working at SWCC. I met a lot of guys. Like I said, I met you, stuff like that. So once I got back, I was ready to go back into the Army, to the real world. I went to Second Brigade. I got there just a little late. I ended up rear D NCOIC, which was in itself. It was a rear D NCOIC I got a lot of respect for it because it wore me out being out of the real world for a while, and now you're in charge of sometime at 200 people. Like it was a big difference. So one day I was out, running. I'm like, man, my back hurts and my leg hurts and my right foot hurts, and I'm like, well, maybe it was because I did some crazy workout, and I just kept doing it. I started stretching. I'm like, something's just not right. And this is 6 years after the last time. And I'm like, something's just not right. And I kept doing it, and it's just stretching and stretching. It's like, all right, I must have sciatica. So I go to sick call. The doctor's like, oh, I don't know. Maybe it is sciatica. So I start taking medicine for that, and it's just not going away. And then, she kind of starts looking through my medical records. She's like, oh, I seen that you had cancer before, so on and so forth. Let me see you in for MRI on your hip. So I go do an MRI on my hip, and it lights up. And nobody knew what it was. That's the craziest part. Even my doctor is Dr. Tepper, Joel Tepper. He's been doing it for years, and he really had no idea what it was. He's like, I don't really know what that is. And
now, what about you? Did you?
Nope, no clue.
So the feeling from the foot to the hip wasn't the same.
Nope. It was. I thought I had sciatica. I legitimately thought I had sciatica from doing something. I thought I had a pinched nerve in my back.
That makes sense.
Yeah, everything leaned towards sciatica, because with the sarcoma, it has the way they kind of do it is a 5-year survival rate,
right?
Which means after 5 years, if it hasn't came back, you can say I'm cured.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I read that.
Until then, I'm in remission.
Right.
But after 5 years, I'm cured. Crazy part is mine was 6.
That
The
is
6th
crazy.
year it came back. Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, long story short, it was right as COVID hit. It took me forever to try to get everything situated. Once I finally did, I went in. Come to find out that I actually had the same type cancer in my bone marrow. And
So not in the muscle, in the bone marrow.
in the bone marrow, which was very, very, very rare. So I wouldn't say I took that with the same grain of salt that I kind of took the last time. But so because it came back again, they consider it terminal.
Right.
So sitting in there talking to the doctor, they said, you have terminal cancer. Not meaning terminal cancer, you're going to croak in a couple days.
Right.
It's terminal cancer, meaning it started in one place and it went somewhere else. So with it being there, I asked the doctor a lot of questions and she gave me a lot of I don't knows. And so from there, I would say I've been in, I would say, the fight of my life right now.
Oh, yeah. So now from the first diagnosis in your foot to this night diagnosis in your hip, that's 6 years total. So right now you should be in remission. Like, hey, dude, I'm clean free like a bird. I'm good.
So from then I've had 2 surgeries, one on my spine, one on my chest. I've had chemotherapy twice and radiation twice from just 2020. I've had a lot of that because it's my doctor explained it like this. Imagine a bunch of little SF guys in your body, and what their job is to do is to harm you, and they're sneaking around, and every time you get that, they'll go over here and they set up, and then you get rid of them. There's always 1 or 2
that survive.
And they just do it. So in all actuality, they didn't think that it was going to go out of my bone marrow because, again, like she said, personally, my doctor had never seen that before.
Right.
I used to have to go get bone marrow biopsies every 3 months, and I would say that's some of the worst pain I've ever been through in my life.
I remember seeing you.
Yeah.
I saw you a couple times. Man. I was
Yeah.
like, man, are you good, man? Because we was worried about you. And then Brad set up the trip. And we went down, was it Polly's Island?
No, we went to Kiowa.
Kiowa, that's right. But wasn't it Polly? Didn't we play?
We went to Kiowa. We played the ocean course.
And then we played something. Wasn't it called a cougar or something?
Yep, it was the Cougar. We played Kiowa Island Ocean Course and one other one.
I don't know why I'm thinking Polly. No, that's where we're going to play.
Yeah,
My bad. But anyway, shouts out to Brad and the guys that came, Gene, we were talking about earlier, and guys that came on that trip because Brad was like, hey, I want to do something for Thomas because I ain't gonna lie, bro. I can't sit here and lie to you, but I didn't think you were gonna make it, man.
Yeah,
you were looking rough.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I used to always call Thomas Adrian Peterson when I first met him. I said, man, who's Adrian Peterson over there? Thomas had all these muscles and stuff, and then when I saw him, he was like,
yeah.
I was like, man, is Thomas on crack? Because I was like, man, you didn't look good, man. You didn't look good at all.
It was that chemo.
And chemo was tearing you up, man. You had lost a lot of weight, so we were all in the brotherhood worried about you, man. And I remember it was many a nice, man. I remember I was texting you. I know Brad was texting. Everybody was like, hey, you good? You good? And what I like to say, bro, I'm still here. I'm still glad that you're here. Second is finding out from your foot to your hip, what was your difference in emotions?
So my difference in emotions would be, I'm gonna go out on here and say it. It tested me because when I first found out about my leg, like I said, it was But when I found out about this, I had 4 kids. There was a lot of stuff going on in my life at that time, and it made me take a step back, and I'm just like, man, like for a while. Even though nobody told me anything of the sort, I'm not gonna lie, I was living to die.
Yeah,
I was living to die. I was just like, whatever. This is it. This is rare. She doesn't know anything. Like I said, nobody's ever told me anything about no type of nothing. Like, so I could live 100 years from now. But at that very moment, my brain started working with the unknowns.
I got you.
And I was living to die. And it took me a while to kind of get out of that I would say that destructive mindset. And I remember I went in after I did my radiation or my last chemotherapy, and they did a bone marrow biopsy, and they're like, oh, so 85% of the tumor's dead. There's only 15% of tumor left. And I'm just like there's still 15% tumor. And I'm like, like, what am I supposed to do now? And I remember going back in February, and I got another bone marrow biopsy, and I go back to the doctor. She's like, all right, well, you're good to go. I'm like, what do you mean I'm good to go? She's like, there's no more cancer in your bone marrow. I'm like, well, where did it go?
Right.
She's like, I don't know. It's just not there.
Well, it went somewhere.
It went somewhere. I'm like, really? And that kind of changed my whole mindset about it. And now I kind of look at it as, and I've asked the doctor, I'm like, what can I do? Right. You know, what can I do? What can I do? They're just like, just stay healthy so we can, basically, it sounds messed up, pump you full of drugs to get rid of it.
Right.
And that's what I've done. Like, I just stay healthy. And I can't, and this is what I'll say to anybody in this, I can't do anything about it.
Right.
So why am I going to let that control me?
Yeah.
I can't do anything about
Right.
it. I can't control it. I can't do anything about it. So it's not going to control my life.
Right.
Like, I'm going to live my life. I'm going to continue to move forward. And if one day it comes back all over my body, then you know what? So be it.
Right.
But right now,
For the moment.
I'm winning it.
That's good, man. You winning.
And I would say the only drawback, I live my life 3 months at a time because I don't know what's going to happen. You know, I could go to my appointment in September and they were like, hey, it's all over your body. You got to go back into this. You got to go back into that. So if somebody's like, hey, man, you want to do something in November? It's like, I'll let you know in November. You know what I mean? Because the way I look at it, I got to put it in the back of my mind, but I got to keep it in the forefront.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
I got you.
I want to be realistic and also optimistic. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
I got you. So now I got a question, Thomas, and I've asked a few people this on my podcast. I know you grew up a Southern Baptist pretty much like I did. Did you ever lose faith? Like, first time, I know you're probably like, oh, God, what's going on? When you got it the second time, did you ever lose faith?
No, not really.
Okay.
No,
That's good.
not at all. No.
Did you gain more faith, though?
I would say no.
Okay.
No, not really. Not really. I gotta just take it day to day, man. I take it day to day.
As old people say, that's because you're a damn heathen. You know?
Yeah. That is probably one thing that I am.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you.
But I kind of want to change up the thing, like it's doom and gloom. I want to talk about kill.
Send it.
So I remember playing on the ocean course. I think it was like 15 or something. I don't know if you remember. Me and you were walking together, and we kept hearing this weird noise.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember it.
I remember that.
I don't know if maybe Puzzle Duck. I don't know if will watch this or nothing. But I just remember this loud noise, kind of like clanking.
I remember that.
And I remember looking up because I thought maybe it was an alligator because we saw the gators and it was just sand flying up. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, it's kind of blank to me. All I know is I got a par that hole.
And somebody
was like, hey, put me down for a par.
Just put me down for a par.
Just put me down for a par. And I just want to make sure I get that out because, like, so they were trying to dig, like they're trying to dig to Japan or something.
So if everybody don't know, I knew Tony was going to bring that up. And you know Brad going to watch this. Brad going to be like, I can't believe him. So we was at Kiel. Brad was in this. He got in this big, deep bunker. I'm talking. This bunker had to be 12 feet.
You couldn't even see Brad.
He just disappeared. All we saw was sand coming out. And Brad's little arms just click. Like, what in the world is that? Me and him walking up, we're like, dude, what is that? And then Thomas putted, he got his par. He's like, and Thomas said, hey, what'd you get? Thomas was like, put me down for par. Yeah, I got a double. And then I hear Brad out of the background goes, just put me down for par. And we were like, how did he get par, dude? We know we saw at least 8 shots of dirt coming up out of there. So that's our running joke to say, put me down for par.
Put me down for par.
Put me down for par.
Absolutely. I just want to make sure he knows we remember.
Hey, he knows we remember. But having said that, though, I want to say something now that, you know, during this, like I just asked Thomas about his faith. What I'll say is, anybody that's going through any type of cancer, I got a buddy of mine, David, that just lost his father last week, and I was beautiful ceremony. I got to go to the ceremony. But what I'll say is that, and I told David this, and just like I told you, I love life, and I know you love life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I love having people around me. But what I've learned is life is cruel. I tell people all the time, you think about it, you love someone, you love them, then they die. You love somebody else, you love them, then they die. So life to me is a cruel thing, but yet it's a great thing because you got those friendships, you got family, you got people that love you, you got people that care about you. But what I would tell people is listen at your story and then kind of knowing your story and the people that's been on a podcast's story. You know, what amazed me is people like Maggie Duskin, people like Louise Cantrell, Shrek, you know, Mike Elliott, Mike Parker. happier. These people that went through things, and yourself that are going through things, but yet, like you just said, you knew that, hey, I got this time of life right now. I'm going to take advantage of it, and I'm going to live it.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why I feel like our podcast is getting these stories out there and sharing these stories, because like I told you on the phone, and my exact words were, Thomas, it ain't about me, it ain't about you.
Yeah,
it's about whoever's going through what you're going. And it might not be the same cancer. It might be, throat cancer.
Mm-hmm.
It might be some other cancer. But guess what? They can listen at your positive outcome. Not saying their outcome is going to be as positive as yours, but they can listen and say, okay, I can take something from this guy's story and say, you know what? I'm going to be positive.
Yeah, because the way I look at it is this: why be negative? There's nothing. Yeah, I get it. I got cancer. There's little SF guys creeping around in my body. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If they're Navy SEALs, they'd be louder. We can find them.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? But there's, I can't do anything about it, so I'm not gonna let it be sadden me. But one other thing I will say: it's good to have a set of people in your life,
right?
To be like my wife, Tracy, my kids, all of those people have been there for me, and they got me through that. Like, I don't want to leave my wife out. Like, especially my last time when I was doing my chemo, like, she was there for me every single day. I'm literally laying in bed. She's raising 4-year-old and 3-year-old, Anna and Amaya, which both of them are a handful. Mm-hmm. And then my 17-year-old, which was 16, and my 13-year-old, they're a handful because they ain't doing anything because they teenagers. Right. And
gotcha.
You know what I mean? So I got to give a shout out to her and tell her I appreciate it, all the help that she gives me in dealing with me and dealing with my pooping this one day and my anger this day and my obsession with playing golf and stuff like that. And, so having a good support group around you is absolutely 100% key, and having a positive attitude toward it, because you can't change it.
Right.
There's nothing you can do. So why dwell on it?
Right,
why give it fire?
Right.
Why? Just live your life, because guess what? In no matter what happens, and if it takes your life, let it take your life. Let you be down then. Right. Because right now it's not doing anything to me. What's the point?
Right.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
You don't want to live 3 years and be like, and as your last few months be like, man, I was sad and poopy and didn't live my life because I was thinking about the end. Because don't nobody know.
Yeah.
Just like the doctors told me. I don't know.
Yeah. And that's one thing I say about life. I say it's cruel, but one thing I like about life is it's meant to be lived.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got 24 hours in a day. I tell people I don't need much sleep because I'm going to sleep when I'm dead. Mm-hmm. So if I got them 24 hours, I'm going to spend as much as I can, living as much as I can, like you just say, doing them 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So Miss Tracy, I want to send a shout out to you. Thank you for taking care of that and being there for him, because he's an Alabama fan. I don't hold it against him.
She's from Scotland, and she don't really know much about it, but she does know one thing.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Lord have mercy. Miss Tracy, I'm sorry.
See, I just came off your tongue. Roll Tide. You know what I mean? I know you live your life. You love life. But you probably don't love it much. You ain't loved it till the last 2 years on Saturdays. So we'll take it back to that.
Oh, my God.
You got me sitting here with this Georgia Rubik's Cube. I know you didn't put it together. I'm just saying.
Hey, so for everybody out there today, hey, thank you guys for watching. This is my boy Thomas, and like I always ask all my other guests, Thomas, I got to ask you, if there's anything, you just said it a minute ago, but I'm saying, there's anything that you could say to somebody that just got diagnosed with cancer, no matter what type of cancer it is, or they're just going through some type of trial or tribulation, what would you say to that person if you met them, knowing now, or knowing then, or having it then, but knowing now what you know about your fight through cancer and all your chemos and all that stuff? What would you tell not only the person that got diagnosed, but what would you tell that loved one as far as like how to just like take every day?
I would say live every day like it's your last. Spend it with family, spend it with friends, and realize the situation that you're in, but don't let that situation become you. Don't let you're not cancer. Cancer is just something that's a part of you, part of your life. Right. It doesn't run your life. It doesn't do any of that. It is just something you're fighting. So don't give it fire.
Right.
Fight it until your last breath and you have nothing left, because you never know what. You just might win.
Right.
You just might win.
I totally agree. Now, with Thomas having said that, I want to say one more thing too. Me and one of my buddies just talking about this the other day when I was coming back from Hawaii. We had a long flight. But we were talking about when guys in the military retire, just like law enforcement. And me and Gentry, I hope Gentry's watching this. I was talking to Gentry the other day. He's a retired Arizona state trooper. I think he's a state trooper, but cop state trooper. And I know he's on SWAT for a while. But me and Gentry was talking about how we let our jobs consume who we are.
Yep, absolutely.
Especially the military and law enforcement, first responders, nurses, teachers. And what ends up happening is when that job consumes you, you forget who you are. It's almost like you just said with the cancer. Cancer is just a part. It's just in your body, but it's not who you are.
Nope.
So for guys that are watching this, military guys, law enforcement guys, first responders, all you guys, as Thomas just said, that job is not who you are.
Nope.
So when you retire or you leave that job, that was just a stepping stone to the next step of the next chapter of your life. So take it as such and move on into your next life of, hey, this is who I am. Because when I retired, I tell everybody, JMFG, it took a lot of my identity because that's who I was. That's who I was.
I agree.
And that's who people knew me about. You know me. Everybody knew me by JMFG. You're that guy, you're that hard charger. Now all of a sudden that's gone. It's like, okay, who am I now? And then you crawl in a little hole and you're like, oh my God, I'm a fag. I'm a former action guy. Don't take it the wrong way. I'm a fag now. I'm a former action guy. And you lose that identity, which I didn't realize that my life was actually just starting. It was just starting to help people start a podcast and start doing things where I can help people. So I just wanted to throw that out there to all my law enforcement, all my military guys that are retiring. I'm going to steal Thomas saying and just say cancer's not you.
Yeah, it's not.
It's just a part. So
and then you could take that drive that you had while you're in and put it towards something else.
And that's what I'm doing here, man.
And I'm putting it toward trying to be a scratch golfer.
I like it. You're getting there.
I'm close.
And so Thomas just said before we came in the show, we was talking, coming to the house, Thomas' goal is to play around the golf at no bogey.
I almost did it.
My goal is to not lose 5 balls, and this guy's like, I'm just trying not to get a bogey.
You want to tell him about me and you playing? I let you hit 2 balls and you should sit and win.
But you lost though.
I didn't lose.
Hold on, we gotta get Gene and Michael. We gotta get Gene on
You
here.
didn't lose.
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't.
When we played at Holland.
You don't even know what Holland's at.
It's over how we won, man.
Okay. Yeah.
Remember, so Thomas bet me one day. He's gonna let me play two balls.
2 balls.
I played 2 balls. And Thomas is a great golfer, by the
It
way.
wasn't even on Holland.
I just dressed. Yeah, it was
on that little one in Sanford.
Yeah, we went to Holland first, though, but we couldn't play there. And then we went to the little course on Sanford. But either way, Thomas got skinned up, even though he let me hit 2 balls, because that second golf is always better than that first.
Yeah, you're right about
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyways, hey, I want to thank you for coming on the show, bro. It means a lot. I hope everybody that's watching this show, you guys got something out of it. Thank you for all the support. I also, and I'm doing it with Luis Cantrell, but I want to do a follow-up with Thomas within probably next year or so.
Okay.
We'll do a follow-up. I'll bring you back on. Let people, know where you're at, that walk, how you beat this thing, how you kicked it in the butt, and then how you still pursuing forward, brother, because by all means, man, you're strong. You're showing that resilience of not letting that get you down.
Absolutely.
You know what
I won't.
And I know, I don't know the date, dude, but I know one day for sure in the near future you're going to be real sad. So I'm going to call you, send you something, because I know it'll probably be the date that Georgia beat Alabama. But I just want you to know, dude, like, it's just a game, bro. Don't let that game determine who you are. It's just a game, bro. Nothing more, nothing less. You know what I mean? Y'all can get skinned up.
So I want to let everybody, all your followers know, 2 years, 3 years ago, you wasn't saying this.
What'd you say, like a little groundhog?
Little groundhog. You done finally poked your head out. Oh, look, wait, we won? Huh? What? It's going to, trust me, it's going to slowly start going back down. That's fine. That's fine as soon as the whack-a-mole. That's what it's like. Okay.
All right, dude. Hey, everybody on the JMFG podcast, we out of here. Thank you guys for tuning in. My boy Thomas Robinson, a.k.a. Adrian Peterson. That's the name I gave him when I first met him. He's just all yoked out. But anyways, hey, thank you guys. Thank you for coming, bro.
No problem,
man. That's good stuff.
Problem.
I love you, brother.
You too.
That's good.